the banks are essentially controlled by the central banks. They do what the central banks tell them to do. And they talk about manipulating the precious metals, or Greenspan used to at least. And I think they make it a slap on the wrist, and it'll just be for show. I don't really think anything will come of it. I mean, I hope it would, but it just doesn't. It wouldn't make any logical sense for the government to do anything, because higher metal prices delegitimize paper money, and that's the last thing I want.
The most significant results encountered for this Canadian mining region in over a decade, with a Canadian Mining Hall of Fame legend at the helm for more discoveries statistically than 1,000 geologists combined. This is the one hard asset stock to research right now. Learn more at crushthestreet.com/hardassets.
Hello everyone, and welcome into crushthestreet.com. I'm joined with a returning guest. I actually interviewed him at the Silver Summit last year, did a live interview with Chris Marchese. He's the Senior Equity and Economic Analyst for the Morgan Report, and just a leading expert in the precious metals community. Silver is on a tear at the moment, and I couldn't think of a better person to chat with at the moment than Chris, a better person than Chris. So Chris, thanks for coming on the show with me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Chris, like I said, let's focus here on silver. Silver has been making its move here in 2016. It lagged gold a bit, granted. The silver to gold ratio, gold-silver ratio, was over 80 and is now around 73. So major moves here in regards to silver. So let's get your latest thoughts in regards to this silver metal.
Well, it follows gold. Gold typically leads a run, and you're right. The ratio got way out of whack. I think it traded as high as 82 and above 82. Now it's back at 73, 74, and that's still very high. I mean, we should see it should be in the 40s or 50s right now. And if you really want to get into it, if you think about the mining ratio, gold's mined about 9.5 times more rare than silver. Silver, a good deal is consumed, gold is not. So even at 40, it's very high. So, silver still has a lot of catching up to do.
Is that what we're seeing here with what silver is doing? Is silver catching up to the move gold made back in February and what we've been seeing here with 2016 with gold leading the way?
Oh, I think so. And, silver is actually a much tighter market than people think because, the investment demand for silver has been pretty crazy the last 2 years or so. And you have to remember about 97% of all gold ever mined is above ground still. Silver, that's not the case because, a good deal of it is consumed in industry. Yes, there's recycling, but there's, a lot more gold above ground than silver.
Mm. So, Chris, I want to ask you about what we're seeing with the mining shares. We've been waiting really for precious metals to take off, and we actually saw the mining shares lead the way. Back in September, they kind of all bottomed out September of 2015, and then we saw them just absolutely take off. Some of these are up 300-400%. And, I got to ask you, what are we seeing? Is this further confirmation that the bull market has begun?
Oh, I think so. But that doesn't mean that we can't and won't have a pullback, say, during the summer doldrums. So, but that doesn't mean the market hasn't turned, because it has. Sentiment is a lot different. I noticed at the PDAC is just a different feeling out there. And I think it's because the world economies, they can't paper it over anymore. They can't make it even look good by their manipulated statistics. It's looking horrible.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the central banks here in regards to what we're seeing with precious metals? Are they losing control of the paper price here, or are they allowing it to happen? What are your thoughts on this?
I think they're probably allowing it to happen, and it could be tightness in the market as well. We don't really know what goes on because in the Commitment of Traders report, it only shows market-traded futures, which is how they primarily control the price or manage the price of precious metals and other commodities. But the over-the-counter market, which is completely opaque, we have no idea what's going on there. So someone like J.P. Morgan or something could be long gold or silver on the Commitment of Traders report, but actually have a net negative position. If there are negative net short positions greater in the OTC market.
Any key thresholds as far as price goes in regards to silver that you're looking at as far as being extremely bullish for the long term, or if we kind of go back below a certain price, it'll indicate some maybe extended corrections type of thing, support resistance lines that you're looking at?
$20 right now. If it can break $20 and hold it for 3, 4, 5 days and keep going to, the high $20, $21, then I think 18 will become new support and maybe even 20. But, the big support or resistance is the breakdown point from 2011. That's the $25, $26 level. In terms of support, I think it will be able to hold about $15 or so this summer if we have a pullback. And gold, I think it'll hold, 1100 definitely, maybe even 1150.
Chris, I think back in 2010, that's where silver really had its run at around like $21. It ran to 49 pretty quickly from then to its high of in 2011. So we'll be definitely checking out those price points here and seeing if we get some repetition of what we saw back then in 2010, and if we do get that big massive run up here going forward. I got to ask you about Deutsche Bank, the news that hit the wires last week, them admitting to rigging the gold and silver markets. How significant is this to you?
It's not significant. I would like to think it is. I have just become too cynical with after the CFTC had their silver and gold rigging investigation, and the banks are essentially controlled by the central banks. They do what the central banks tell them to do, and they talk about manipulating the precious metals, or Greenspan used to at least. And I think they make it a slap on the wrist, and it'll just be for show. I don't really think anything will come of it. I mean, I hope it would, but it just doesn't. It wouldn't make any logical sense for the government to do anything because higher metal prices delegitimize paper money, and that's the last thing it wants.
But is exposing the markets are manipulated to a larger degree healthy for precious metals? And could that exposure be what breaks the back of the manipulation? The free market ultimately overwhelming the manipulation?
Yeah, it could. I mean, it would have to be done through people buying physical metal. I mean, the physical market has to determine the price. It can't be the paper price. So they'll have to, be more buying, of course. And I think, this very well could give people, wake some people up to like, oh wow, this really is manipulated, because there's a lot of deniers out there.
So, Chris, what are we looking at here in 2016? How high do you think we can see precious metals go here? Do you think it's going to be this ongoing, pretty substantial moves here month after month, or are we going to taper off and kind of go in like a trading range? I mean, what is likely to happen in a bull market? Because we've kind of just started this. This is, considering how long the bear market has been, this bull market has just begun. So I want to get your thoughts on what a bull market could potentially look like.
So what I think is going to happen is, the metals could keep running. Gold could go to 1,300 or even a little lower. Silver to push 18 or even slightly over that. Then as we near the summer, mainly mid-May, June, I think, the typical summer doldrums where the banks will be able to take it down because, there's very light volume during the summer. People are on vacation and that sort of thing. And then I think as, the economic data is going to continue to deteriorate because in order for a fiat money system to appear to be, economy to appear to be growing, there has to be an increased expansion of the supply of money and credit, and that's not happening right now. So I would think by September, the bull market will resume and it'll start gaining steam. And then in 2017, that's when I think the fireworks will start to begin. And 2018, we'll just see an absolutely incredible year.
So talk about that, the end of a bull market. What does the end of a bull market look like? Because that's really when we see the most amount of gains. Is that typical? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's in about the last 10% of the time, about the majority of the move comes.
How do people play that sort of movement? I mean, how do people know what the top is, what the bottom is? I mean, none of us were able to accurately call the bottom with 100% certainty, and how are we going to know what the top is going to look like, and how to go about trading that?
Well, a smart thing would be to compare it to the price of other assets and where you want to go after that, because you're not going to want to go to cash. That's the whole problem. Cash could be worthless. You're going to want to go to other hard assets, and really, the best idea, because like you said, you can't call a bottom, especially if we have a mania, which is highly likely, given this is a global event, is that you slowly scale out of your positions.
Right. And, right now, even the best miners are trading at historically low prices, even with the moves that we've seen coming off such a low here. They're still very, very cheap. But what's the rest of the market going to look like? Even the ones that don't necessarily deserve these massive price movements, are they going to see some big moves as well? Is that what happens in this sector?
Yeah, it'll be because instead of people buying physical gold or silver because they think it's gotten too expensive, they'll go buy mining stocks. And what is going to happen is that they'll buy anything with the name gold or silver in it. It won't matter if it's, will never produce, it's explore, near bankruptcy. They'll get into that. That's at the very end.
So that's a good point. You said that the metals will get too expensive, so then they'll go to the miners. So the best miners are going to move first, and then the ones that don't deserve as much credibility will move at the end. And maybe that would be a good indicator of we're getting close to the end of this bull market.
Yeah, but, in bubbles, because I think this will become a bubble, we don't know how far those can go. I mean, remember the tech boom, and 2007 and 8, the valuations got absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, look at what's happening now, even with the stock market. I mean, a lot of us are expecting the stock market to pull back based on fundamentals, and it's continuing to maintain where it's at and actually continue to move forward here in 2016. So, yeah, it's a good point. It's hard to know exactly when that's going to happen and how long this can go, even when something is inevitable. It doesn't mean it's imminent, right? That's Rick Rule's words right there. So
you want to be positioned in the miners now because, like you said, the best ones will probably move first, and the lower quality ones will move after that. And so it's important to establish positions, especially if you were able to get in January or before, just because the valuations, there were such a disconnect, even with with the prevailing metal price. I mean, not for all of them, obviously, but for a great deal.
Chris, excellent insight there, and I appreciate you coming on the show and talking to us about precious metals. I want to ask you about the Morgan Report. What's going on there? Any latest news that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, so we've actually rebranded the Morgan Report. It's on a different domain. You can still go to Silver Investor, but it redirects you to the morganreport.com because we cover more than silver and gold, which not many people really know. For example, we have uranium, a zinc play, an oil play in the portfolio, and other than that, everything, the portfolio has been doing extremely well this year. Since just January to February was an incredible month on its own. Yeah.
So everyone, if you want to sign up for the Morgan Report, you go to silver-investor.com, and I mean some of the best research that's out there on the internet regarding junior mining stocks, and just other companies across the board, just like Chris said. So, Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show with me today. I do appreciate it, and the audience does as well.
My pleasure.